Welcome to the channel. Here, let's explore together the incredible tales and teachings found in the scriptures. I'm thrilled to have you with us as we delve into the stories, events, and lessons that have influenced morals and spirituality throughout time. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting chapter, the last days of King Solomon's life. So join us as we explore the sacred pages and discover the wisdom, challenges, and consequences that shaped this important biblical figure. Let's start this journey together. Even the wisest kings face challenges, and Solomon does not escape this reality. Despite his remarkable wisdom, he was not immune to difficulties, and this vulnerability placed his reign in a dangerous situation. Today, we will carefully analyze every detail, from the beginning of Solomon's reign to his last days, as narrated in the scriptures. I believe that this thorough investigation deserves your support with a like and subscription to the channel, helping to share this video. The last days of King Solomon, son of David and Bathsheba, are notable in biblical scriptures. He is recognized for his extraordinary wisdom, wealth, and crucial role in the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. Solomon's ascension to the throne of Israel had to face several challenges and family intrigues after David's death. His son Adonijah attempted to take the throne, but the prophetic intervention of Nathan and Bathsheba ensured that God's chosen Solomon was crowned king. The divine revelation to David, recorded in the first book of Chronicles 22, was clear. "You have shed much blood and fought many wars. Therefore you will not build a temple in my honor. However, your son, a man of peace and tranquility, he will build the temple in Jerusalem. His name will be Solomon, and I will provide peace and quiet for Israel during his reign." King Solomon's approximately 40-year reign over Israel occurred between 971 and 931 BC. The early years of his life and youth are largely unknown, but based on information in the Bible about David's family life, we can get an idea of the environment in which Solomon grew up. David, known for having several wives, faced many family problems that resulted in conflicts between his wives and children as they sought prestige and power. Solomon appears in biblical history during a tense period in the royal family, when a dispute over the throne of Israel unfolded due to King David's old age and frailty. Before this incident, Absalom, who was Solomon's half-brother, unsuccessfully tried to take the throne from his father. Later, Adonijah, David's eldest surviving son, also attempted to proclaim himself king of Israel, repeating Absalom's action. Adonijah had the support of Joab, a former general of David, and the priest Abiathar. He made several attempts to take the throne, including organizing a coronation festival. However, upon discovering Adonijah's plan, Nathan the prophet, Zadok the priest, and other allies worked to remind David of the unfulfilled promise regarding Solomon as his successor. As a result, David issued orders regarding Solomon's accession to the throne, and he was crowned king of Israel, being anointed by Zadok. At the time of his coronation, Solomon was probably only 18 years old. He began his reign by promoting stability and unity in the kingdom. What made him stand out among the leaders of his time was his remarkable wisdom. In the early days of his reign, Solomon established a significant covenant with God, revealing not only his wisdom, but also his intention to seek divine guidance in his rule. The details of this covenant and its conditions are recorded in the first book of Kings chapter 3, verses 3 to 14. The crucial moment took place in Gibeon, where Solomon offered sacrifices before the Lord. That night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask me whatever you want, and I will give it to you." Solomon demonstrated humility, recognizing the responsibility of leading the people of Israel. Specifically, he mentioned his need for wisdom to judge and govern justly, recognizing his total dependence on God to guide his steps and make wise decisions that would benefit the people of Israel. Solomon's choice to ask for wisdom rather than riches or personal success showed his desire to lead with integrity and justice, reflecting the heart of a wise, God-fearing leader. God's response to Solomon's request was extraordinary. God praised the king's choice and, in addition to granting the requested wisdom, promised additional blessings, including riches and honors unprecedented in Israel's history. A famous episode that exemplifies this wisdom involves two women competing for motherhood of a child. The narrative, found in the first book of Kings chapter 3, verses 16 through 28, describes two women who lived together and gave birth at the same time. However, one of the children died, leading both women to claim the surviving child as their own. Faced with this impasse, the women appeared before King Solomon in search of justice. Rather than making a hasty decision, Solomon proposed an extraordinary solution. He suggested dividing the child in half and giving half to each woman. Both women's responses revealed the real mother. The woman who truly loved the child begged the king not to harm the baby and suggested that the child be given to the other woman. On the other hand, the other woman, who was not the biological mother, agreed to the division proposal. Solomon's insightful response revealed the true mother, the one willing to give up the child to protect him from harm. Thus, Solomon decreed that the legitimate mother was the one who had demonstrated genuine maternal love, ordering that the child be handed over to her. In addition to his wisdom, Solomon was noted for notable achievements, including the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. This grand undertaking not only served as the spiritual centerpiece of the kingdom, but also symbolized God's constant presence among the people of Israel. The temple's magnificence not only reflected Solomon's administrative skill, but also the kingdom's opulence and prosperity. Although the desire to build a temple for the Lord was initially conceived by his father King David, it was Solomon who brought this noble project to fruition. The biblical story details in detail the precious materials used in the construction of Solomon's temple, such as the cedar of Lebanon for the structure and pure gold for the decorations. This reflects the king's dedication and reverence for God. The choice of the location of Mount Moriah for the temple has a deep symbolic meaning, as it is the same place where Abraham demonstrated his faith by being willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. This act of faith and obedience, prior to the construction of the temple, highlights the continuity of the special relationship between God and his people. Solomon's temple emerged as Israel's spiritual and cultural focal point, becoming a symbol of unity in worship. Furthermore, Solomon dedicated himself to strengthening international alliances, consolidating commercial and diplomatic relations. A notable example of these external relations was the visit of the Queen of Sheba, who came to test Solomon's wisdom. These events are recorded in the first book of Kings chapter 10, verses 1 to 13, and in the two books of Chronicles 9, chapters 1 to 12. Upon arriving in Jerusalem, the Queen of Sheba posed challenging questions to Solomon, testing his wisdom. The Bible reports that Solomon answered all her questions, and there was nothing he could not explain. The queen's journey to Jerusalem was marked by an impressive caravan carrying an abundance of spices, gold, and precious stones. The exchange of gifts during the visit highlighted the high diplomatic nature of this meeting. In addition to the visit of the Queen of Sheba, Solomon established diplomatic relations with other kingdoms, forming marriage alliances with princesses from neighboring nations, such as Egypt and Phoenicia. This common practice at the time was intended to strengthen alliances and promote peace between kingdoms. However, throughout his reign, Solomon was not immune to failures. Despite being acclaimed for his wisdom and greatness, his story is also marked by errors and deviations that eventually had significant consequences for his government and the history of Israel. One of Solomon's main mistakes was his involvement with foreign women, going against God's instructions. At the beginning of the book of Kings, chapter 11, verses 1 to 3, It is mentioned that Solomon had several wives of foreign origin, including the Pharaoh's daughter, disregarding the divine law that prohibited unions with women who worshipped other gods. These marriages were not limited to political agreements. They also introduced foreign cultural and religious elements into Israel. The foreign wives brought with them religious practices that, over time, exerted a detrimental influence on Solomon. He began to allow the veneration of various idols and to participate in rituals that went against the exclusive worship of the God of Israel. The most critical point of this deviation was the construction of temples dedicated to idols in honor of the deities worshipped by their wives, an action that directly confronted divine precepts. This separation, which even involved the construction of altars, characterized the last periods of Solomon's life, as described in chapters 11 and 12 of the first book of Kings. This period was notable for a mix of grandeur and challenges, revealing the nuances of life and government. As Solomon's past decisions, especially regarding marriages with foreign women and acceptance of the worship of foreign idols, began to negatively impact his reign, God's disapproval manifested itself, prompting the rise of opponents against Solomon. Jeroboam, a trusted official, revolted against the king and emerged as a prominent leader who would eventually lead the northern tribes. Solomon's passing marked the end of an era. He died after ruling for 40 years, leaving a legacy that included the magnificent construction of the temple in Jerusalem and a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity. The Bible does not offer specific details about his exact cause of death. However, in the first book of Kings, chapter 11, verses 41 to 43, it is recorded that the remainder of Solomon's story, his actions and the wisdom he demonstrated, are documented in the book of the deeds of the kings of Israel. He rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David, his father, being succeeded by his son Rehoboam. If this content resonates with your heart, I invite you to continue exploring with us the sacred stories that continue to inspire and challenge generations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the spread of these meaningful stories. May God be upon you, and see you in the next video.